The Golden State Valkyries had the offseason from hell. That's the only way I can describe what happened to the Golden State Valkyries. I will call it the offseason from hell. Like, this was the team that they drafted. And it is not an awful team. It's absolutely not an awful team. But they might actually be able to save the Indiana Fever. And not only save the Indiana Fever, turn them into top-tier contenders. And if you guys agree, subscribe. We're trying to hit 42,500 subscribers by the end of the day. We're obviously not gaining 300,000 subscribers anytime soon. But yeah, let's talk about this roster. So, if you want to look at this roster, you have got Rupert, who may or may not be coming over. Kate Martin, cool. Kayla Thornton, cool. Steph Talbot, cool. Temi, cool. Restricted free agent, they're going to have to pay her. They had to pay Monique Billings. Chechi Zandalasini, good pickup. Julie Vanloo, reserve free agent. Carla Leite will not be coming over this year. She's playing in France. As of right now, I'm not joking when I say this. Like, this is their roster is horrific. Like, their roster is absolutely horrific. Like, and they signed nobody in free agency. Not only that, like, you have to get a certain threshold. You actually have to get a certain threshold. You have to get a certain amount of, like, you have to make a certain amount of players and on the team, and like, it's just awkward. So right now their roster looks like this because they have Temi, like Kate Martin's not even, or because they signed what they signed Julie Vanloo to. Julie Vanloo, I'm pretty sure, is technically on a like training camp contract. With the way they got her in restricted free agency, I'm pretty sure she is on like a training camp contract. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is what their roster looks like. And they have a minimum salary they need. I think it's like 1.2 million or something that they actually have to spend. And for me, I'm like, if you have to spend that amount of money, then like it's not looking ideal, this team, because Steph Talbot's not on much money. Temi is not gonna. You're not gonna give Temi a max. Kayla Thornton's under contract. Kate Martin's under contract. So yeah, you've got now a situation where you need a lot of salary, and one player that you can get. And by the way, you need certain salary. You're not gonna. You can either do one of two things. You can either sign a bunch of free agents like Mercedes Russell to stupidly high contracts, or you can take bad contracts off other teams and get picks. And this is a franchise ran by an NBA team. The most glaring player that you can get picks for is Katie Lou Simonson. You need the salary to hit the minimum salary. Katie Lou will play for you. Like, that's the thing. People are like, oh, Katie Lou's terrible. She's not terrible. She's just not brilliant. Like, Katie Lou's not a terrible basketball player. She's not a terrible W player. We're seeing it Unrivaled. She looks fine. She looks absolutely fine in Unrivaled. Not great, not bad, but fine. And for that reason, I'm like, they can take Katie Lou, and while taking Katie Lou again, you go and get a pick, get 2 picks. And for the Fever, this is perfect because the Fever are going for it this year. There's no question about it. Katie Lou does not fit. You need to get off Katie Lou's contract. And people are like, oh, the Fever have got minimum contracts. The Fever need a backup point guard. They cannot afford, if they do not get off Katie Lou's contract, I'm not joking when I say this, if they do not get off Katie Lou's, the most money they can pay for a backup point guard is a league minimum. They literally only have a league minimum to spend. So it's it's a no-brainer situation for Indiana to try get off Katie Lou's contract. And you're willing to give up the 13th pick, or the 12th pick in next year's draft, the 11th pick in next year's draft. You're willing to give that up because you're a free agent destination. And that's the one thing people don't realize about draft picks. If you are a free agent destination, And free agents are willing to come, and especially in the WNBA, free agents are willing to take pay cuts. There are players that are playing for less than they're worth. One prime example is Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham has taken huge pay cuts throughout her pay cuts at times in her career. She took a huge pay cut this year because the Phoenix Mercury, Matt Ishbia, the Suns, they were looking after her. As far as like they were giving her work with the Suns, they were sorting her out. Out in the offseason, so she was willing to take less money. And she was willing to go to the Indiana Fever because she knows she'll make more money outside of basketball and she will with that. So with the Fever having that type of pull, there's a reason why people were thinking that Elena Deladon might come back and play for a team on a minimum this year. Just so that, she can go and win because Elena Deladon's made her money. Like these players that are multi-millionaires, like a Caitlin Clark who's making $11 million dollars in endorsements. Wouldn't be surprised to see Caitlin Clark taking pay cuts. She'll be just like, yeah, it's like, okay, I can either give myself a better chance of winning a championship or I can make an extra 100K. I make $12 million a year from endorsements. So her speaking fee for a half an hour for Caitlin Clark is 100K. Caitlin Clark taking an extra 1 hour speaking gig could, and using that type of, or taking that type of a salary cut, suddenly Caitlin Clark could, like, honestly, get another All-Star if she does take that type of salary. And that's the problem with these WNBA salary caps. Like, now you're at the stage where these players are making so much money outside the sport that they might be willing to just say, I am worth, like, let's just say if you're Caitlin Clark, in 3 years' time, I am worth $60 million. I do not care about 100K in my WNBA, an extra 100K in my WNBA contract. I will just keep playing for the minute. I'll just keep playing for the minimum because I know the more championships I win, the more MVPs I get. If I win a championship from endorsements, I'm going to get 5 million extra in endorsements if I win a championship. So let me go and take the minimum if it gives me a better chance. Like, there are going to be players making those deals if you're Indiana. So the picks aren't that relevant. Like, if you're a free agent destination, picks don't matter. Not that they don't matter. They don't really matter, especially late first round picks. And because of their salary, the second round picks, you can get them a non-guaranteed contract and cut them a training camp. If you're competing for a championship, a lot of first round picks don't make your roster. Like we saw with the Lynx at the 8th pick and Peely didn't play. We saw Markeisha Davis barely playing. She was a first round pick for the Liberty. So these type of picks, you would rather get a vet than a pick. And what you can do end up, like if you give your 2026 pick, who cares? It's not as good a deep a draft as this. You give your 2026 pick to get off Keilu Samuelson, and it gives you a backup point guard this year. And you can just re-sign everybody. You can just re-sign the whole team. Because Caitlin and Aaliyah are both on contracts. So, yeah, it's a really, really interesting one. But, yeah. So anyway, I think the Golden State Valkyries have the ability. And for the Valkyries, again, it makes so much sense to take the Fever's pick. You stock up on draft picks. If you stock up on draft picks over the next 3 years, then you've got stock up on those picks. You've got if you have a 33% hit rate, suddenly you've got 3 really good players under rookie deals. You're in Golden State. You've got a franchise willing to put in money. And then all of a sudden, you've now got you've got something to build on. You've got something to build. But right now, they're going to stink this season. They need to lay down for Latson. They need to take as many toxic contracts as possible. And no contract right now is more toxic than Keilu Samuelson's. Heck, it might actually be at the stage where not only that, you could probably, if you are really trying to fleece a team, and you're not going to be great this year, if you're really trying to fleece a team, you give the Fever Julie Vanloo in this trade, and you end up getting everything. You get the house from Indiana. You get the 19th pick. You get Indiana Fever's second round pick next year, and you get their first round pick next year. And heck, if you want their third round pick, take their third round pick. Julie Vanloo and it's basically like you giving up. You are giving up Julie Vanloo, and you are gaining a third round pick, 2 second round picks, and a first round pick. You're gaining 4 picks to give up Julie Vanloo and take this contract. And that sorts out the Fever's backup point guard issue. So something like that would be interesting if you are looking to make that trade. But I do think we will see in the next 24 hours a Katie Lou Samuelson trade. Because right now the Fever cannot, not that they can't afford a team, they literally do not have a backup point guard. They don't have that much money. They don't have enough money to get anyone decent with the backup point guard, and they literally don't have one. It's not like, oh, Grace Berger's there, and, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle maybe if Grace Berger's not good, they don't have anyone else. They literally don't have a backup point guard. So yeah, that's the video. I'll see you guys.